This morning, we're shining a spotlight on some new information that could bring justice to the family of a pregnant Massachusetts woman found dead back in 2021. 23-year-old Sandra Birchmore was 3 months pregnant when she was found dead inside of her Canton apartment. Now, Canton is the same town where the Karen Read saga is unfolding. Birchmore's death was ruled a suicide by investigators. Now, according to the Boston Globe, the Birchmore family hired famed forensic pathologist Dr. Michael Baden to review Birchmore's autopsy, and he concluded the cause of death was strangulation. He's saying this is a homicide case. Now, the Birchmores hired Dr. Baden, according to the Boston Globe, because they're suing the town and 3 officers who they claim engaged in inappropriate sexual relations with Birchmore while she was a minor and part of the Stoughton Police Explorers program. That's a program for kids. Now, all 3 of them, William Farwell, Matthew Farwell, and former Stoughton Deputy Chief Richard Devine, have all left the department. And they also have all declined to comment on the investigation. Let's talk about this. Let me bring back in retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindeffer and retired criminal defense attorney, the man who famously represented Jodi Arias and saved her life, Kirk Nurmi. Kirk, let me begin with you, please. In your view, how might Dr. Baden's findings change this whole case legally?
Well, you know, we got to go back to the reality of where this sprung, right? Canton, and we know the kind of the misdeeds they have presented in court. The Commonwealth has been open to charging some woman when there's no science behind the accident. So when we talk about this plethora of science and lack of investigation, that's where it becomes problematic, not just from the lawsuit point of view, but the court of public opinion, right? And so you see this possibility, this specter, that these 3 men that have left the department, and we can't make any accusations against them, but the suit makes accusations against them that are really troubling. And we see then that maybe this isn't being fully investigated. So someone with the prestige of Dr. Baden comes in and says, listen, these are some of the things that were happening. This was a murder. That needs to be really taken a look at in more depth, as opposed to just what the Canton police tells us, because their word is not very valuable to the population.
I appreciate that point, Kirk Nurmi. I want to play a clip from a Karen Read supporter outside of the courthouse who brought up this case. Let's watch.
I think it spoke to us because we're locals. So my bestie lives in Canton. I'm a Stoughton resident. The Sandra Birchmore story really spoke to me. I have a child in the middle school, and it was local, and we knew it just didn't sit right.
Jennifer Coffindeffer, to you here, please. Something that's become clear to me as the days and weeks have gone on is that these protesters, supporters, whatever you want to call them, people wearing pink, they are there for different reasons. I've learned that it's not all about Karen Read for some of these people, and the Sandra Birchmore case is talked about. Do you think that in a way this is being conflated by the 2 cases are being conflated by some members of the public perhaps who have a distrust for the police?
Well, I've always said, Julie, that this case mimics, in a way, the O.J. case in this way. In the O.J. case, there were huge issues concerning race and race relations and Rodney King. And in this case, there are huge concerns concerning political corruption and corruption of the police. And when you look at the Sandra Birchmore case, there can be no other finding in terms of what I've read and what even the Stoughton police put out, that these officers were having relations with this young girl at as early as 15 years old. Now, if that's proven, that's statutory rape, and that's a very serious allegation. Then, Julie, when we look at the particulars of her suicide, she was found with a cord ligature around her neck, tied to a closet handle. The individual left her place, one of the officers accused of this relationship, and was the last to see her alive. I mean, I understand now. Then you go to Baden's findings. He says also nothing was done with her clothing in terms of analysis, and that's problematic. They should be looking for signs of DNA from somebody who could have possibly caused this situation to happen. So it's a concerning case, and I agree with you. It's sort of been intertwined with Karen Reed.
Jennifer, right. You know, and the intertwining of cases shouldn't happen. Every case is separate, as we know. Every case factually is different from the next. I can see why it's being brought up, though. I can see why it's being raised. And yes, to your point, Jennifer, if this woman was raped by these people who, the claim, you know, the allegation, you know, by members of her family is that they suspect abuse, sexual abuse. If that happened, all of them need to be prosecuted and to the fullest extent of the law and penalized accordingly for this, if it happened. We don't know. But where do we go from here to find out, to find that answer? Kirk Nurmi, let's talk about that. To find out if this woman, when she was a child, was sexually abused, as her family is saying, as part of this program or by these police officers, allegedly. How do you begin to work that case?
You know, I kind of have to wonder, Julie, when we talk about the intertwining of these two cases, if the Department of Justice isn't involved in investigating that as well, because what we're seeing, and one of the things that came out of, I believe, Mr. Jackson's mouth, he talked about the thin blue line becoming a tall blue wall. And it seems like perhaps the Canton Police Department is engaging in a pattern of conduct, if it is, as Dr. Baden found, to kind of protect their own, if you will. So this could be very much evidence of that, and I think the only way you really truly find out about this is if an outside investigating agency like the Department of Justice is looking into these things. Because whatever you think about the Karen Reed case, I don't think there's anybody that could say that this officer's conduct is okay, and neither would be protecting it.
Right. No, certainly not. If these officers did what the family believes they did, according to the reporting that we've seen out there, then they need to be prosecuted. As I said, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Agent Coffindeffer, last word to you, please. In terms of where this investigation begins, do you think it has begun already? We know the chief of police said he'd be remiss if he didn't remark that he's reviewed the findings of the outside doctor retained by Sandra's family. I was profoundly disturbed and troubled by what I read. He said, while I'm not a trained medical examiner, I'm not qualified to draw any conclusions. The findings certainly warrant further examination at the highest level. Chief Donna McNamara, current chief at the Stoughton Police Department. Jennifer, your thoughts on if something has commenced?
Well, I think something has commenced. It's got to commence in this particular situation. And from what I've read, there are actual text messages. And I think the phone information is going to be critical because my understanding is there are some admissions that were made during those text messages. That, again, is part of the allegations. I think they're going to be able to at least make some conclusions regarding this relationship, regarding what happened, and hopefully get to the bottom through more medical examination regarding what really happened to Ms. Birchmore.
Great points from you both. We've got to leave it there, but we'll continue following the Sandra Birchmore case here on Opening Statements. Jennifer Coffindeffer, Kirk Nurmi, thank you both for your time and expertise. We'll see you later.